This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
The champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of the Danny Batten Fight Show, powered by Violent Money. And, of course, please do check out their Violent Money YouTube channel, Violent Money TV, and, of course, the Violent Money Academy. The biggest first smart gym in the UK, as I get my words all tangled. But do give them a follow. And, of course, if you want to purchase some equipment or clothing, such as this beautiful T-shirt, in their collaboration with Weekend Defender, you can use the code ACE20 to get 20% off. So please do that. Check out all their stuff. Tell them we sent you and all that stuff. Today's show is live on YouTube. If you prefer your podcast in audio form, then check out the Danny Batten Fight Show on the Sports Social Podcast Network, plus all the other shows and content produced by A.C.E Podcast Nation available there through the Sports Social Podcast Network. Check them out. And today's show brought to you by Fume. If you are a current smoker or a past smoker, someone who struggles through with the addiction and the fiddly fingers and all the stuff which comes along with it, like myself, then lean into this, because this is good. Fume is all natural. It's a natural inhaler designed for better, safe, and natural way to quit cigarettes. It's no smoke, no vape, no nicotine replacement for hand-to-mouth habit of smoking. Replace the habit. Fume handcrafts wooden inhalers, uses core infused with plant oils studied to curb the cravings. They've got flavors like peppermint, concours, with minty notes to simulate the menthol cigarettes, and other flavors like cozy chai, lemon berry bliss for a sweeter experience. And all of their flavors are 100% natural, no harmful chemicals, no artificial colorings, flavors, and absolutely no nicotine. There are literally thousands of reviews. Quitting smoking is tough, but Fume can really help. They've got thousands of 5-star reviews from smokers who've tried everything else, and this has worked. So I'm just starting to give it a go now. So far, so good, but we'll have to keep you updated on that, because I'm very good at starting, and I usually fail miserably about a couple of weeks later, but we'll see. I recommend it. Like I say, they've got a very good reputation, and whether you're a smoker or an ex-smoker who still struggles with those cravings, Fume is the perfect tool for you. Head to breathefume.com/AceNation or go to breathefume.com and use the code AceNation to get 10% off your entire order. And as always, please do support our sponsors and stuff. It really helps us out a lot. breathefume.com/AceNation. Let's get on with the show and get these two idiots speaking.
As soon as he's on, I can't. I just can't keep a straight face when I get on that. I can't take the kid serious.
No, that's just rude, I think. But as you can hear, I'm delighted as always. The return of the king, as it were. Danny Batten is back with us after his trip to Poland last weekend, and we were lucky in some ways, Danny, and because you were away, it was just me and Reese having a good old chat for about an hour, and obviously it was 5-6 days before he had a world title fight. What a fight, by the way, that was. But it was a unique show last week because obviously you weren't with us.
Yes, yeah, it's not very often but I'll ever not be able to make it. But there's been lots of delays regards flights. So I was delayed on the way out there, delayed on the way back. It was one hell of a journey back, actually. It was like a 4-hour drive to get to the airport. And when I got to the airport, I just saw delay after delay after delay. I set off about 10 o'clock in the morning, and then I arrived home about 11 o'clock at night from Poland. It was like an epic. Yeah, it wasn't so good.
But Reese did a fine job anyway. As he was on anyway. He was our guest, so it meant that it was me and you rather than me and Reese rather than me, you and Reese. Tom's just disconnected. I don't know what's going on with that. We'll see now. He'll come back. He's I think his connection just dropped, but he'll be back now. See if he's back there now. Well, we are joined by MMA featherweight Danny. Mr. Tom Mearns, who's now having connection issues, so he'll be back in now in a second. But how are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Like I said, the journey was all a bit peep tongue, which led me not to be there for the podcast. But yeah, everything still went ahead as always. Yeah, still had you to run it smoothly, didn't we? And what an interview with Reese, especially as he got such an incredible result as well. It's a fight I haven't seen, unfortunately, just yet.
Jeez, mate. Do you know what, right? Insane fight. First half of the first round, I thought, oh, wow, Reese is going to take this pretty comfortably. And then all of a sudden, Justin just sparked into life, took Reese down and did some real damage. And Reese got cut like across. I don't know if you've seen his social media today. He got like a big cut on his forehead. Reese barely survived the end of the round. Then the end of the first round came. The doctor then checked Reese's head at the start of round 2, and I thought he's going to call it, but his cut man or woman did a tremendous job. Really must have whatever they do to get it together. Second round was pretty much all Justin at first, and then Reese just suddenly exploded and got that knockout at the start of the third round. But the doctor checked on Justin then. Like that after the first round, they were both just like all messed up big time. Right. And it was like, wow, what a fight. And I gotta say, I think Justin Burlinson, will be very frustrated because he got to certain points where not only was he on top in the fight, but he had an opportunity where I think he thought he could finish it. And Reese just managed to hold on, keep working, wriggle out and stuff like this. Reese's scramble game was really good. And and then in the start of the third round, he just caught him with 2 big shots and just knocked him out. But it was a fantastic fight, really good event as well. They also announced, mate, that Cage Warriors has come back to Wales.
Great stuff.
142. So coming up, there's a PFL event coming in Cardiff, which is right near me. So I'm going to try go there. And then there's a Cage Warriors Wales. It's not the next one, but the one after. So there's a London and then Wales. It's up in Ebervale, though, so I'll have to see. It's a bit further away from me. Not too far, though. I might be able to get a lift with old Barry. He sometimes does the medical stuff for Cage Warriors in the past. So when they've done the Welsh show, so if he's on that thing, I might try and see if I can get some interviews and stuff. But just as we wait for Thomas, we had UFC last night. We had PFL on Friday. Bellator as well. There's been an insane amount of MMA. It's physically impossible to watch it all. I wanted to just talk to you a bit about PFL though. We had a couple of Brits in there. In particular, we had Stevie Ray picked up a really big victory against Anthony Pettis with an unusual finish as well.
It was unusual. Yeah, very, very unusual. It's like a body triangle with that. I don't know whether it's got a name, but it's like a body triangle.
When I spoke to him before you come on, he said he thought it was a reverse twister, is what he described it as.
Yeah, I suppose it was just really, really unusual. I mean, I'm not a twister style of guy to sort of like overly comment on it, but it was unusual. You very, very strange to get that sort of situation play out in MMA. But MMA is, a sport with so many variants to lose and therefore win. And we just saw one of those really unusual variants. And what a time to produce it. Really happy for Stevie Ray. If you have a look at what James Doolan writes about him, how that he's fought and become champion on, not only like places like Cage Warriors, Bama, fought on UFC. The kid's really been about, and to still pull off awesome performances like that and be in for a shout at winning that $1 million that's up for grabs. He's 2 fights away. I mean, that's just incredible performance, really is. Yeah, he should be flying high.
Yeah, indeed, mate. It was impressive because he was a heavy underdog for that fight, and also shout out to Brendan Loughlin, who picked up a victory in PFL as well. Goes through to I think it's the semi-finals now. But one thing for him, he was supposed to be on the main card, and what he did is he asked PFL to go on the prelims so that the UK viewers were able to.
Oh wow! I didn't know that.
So because it was on Channel 4, wasn't it? And obviously, by it being on earlier, you've got more chance of those UK viewers watching. So I think he deserves a tremendous amount of credit for that because
absolutely
most people are all about I want to be on the main card, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But I've got to catch up on some of those PFL fights because by all accounts they looked exciting stuff, mate. Exciting.
Yeah,
stuff.
it's a really good promotion. And likewise, really, there's just so many fights now to follow. What with Bellator really getting their act together and putting on some amazing performances as well. It's like, MMA overload. It really is. It's quite difficult to stay on top of everything. It really is. But look, I'd rather have too much than too little because we've experienced too little during the lockdown years, and that wasn't a nice time, was it?
No, it was not. And I think the other thing as well is, like, unfortunately, we're trying to watch everything in basically 24 hours, isn't it? Like, because we do the show Sunday and most of the stuff is like Friday, Saturday, and it's a lot to try and cram in, but we'll still be able to get what we can in and kind of go from there. But yeah, there's some huge events coming up for PFL. Obviously, like I mentioned, they got a Cardiff one and a London one. I believe they're for the semi-finals as well, I think. Yeah, so 13th of August is the playoffs, the second sort of batch of them. That's in Cardiff, and I would assume playoffs one. Well, so playoff one was August 5th. Wow. That's in Madison Square Garden. They've signed some big names as well, and then you've got a London one in London, August 20th. So, wow, some big, not just big fights though, Daddy. There's big money up for the winner of those tournaments as well.
Yeah, and that's nice to see. I think something that's become a topic so often is the fighters, other than people that have obviously won world titles on the big shows, they struggle financially. It's not an easy career to sort of like try to find your way to a position where you can be financially secure. So to see such big money coming up for grabs, I think it's a real great thing. It really is good, and I think it will also force the hand of other promotions to obviously bid against them in the way of trying to draw fighters their direction rather than the other direction. So we could get into a nice little bidding war with the promotions and start offering these fighters trying to come up the ranks something more substantial.
Yeah, and I think it's good, isn't it? It's, that you've got a mixture as well. Like in PFL, for instance, you've got a mixture of young fighters, upcoming fighters, and then you've also got like the older fighters who perhaps have been dropped from the UFC and stuff like that. So Tom's having issues. He won't let him.
In. It's just messaged me saying it can't come in.
I'm going to just quickly send him a message. Did you watch the UFC from last night, mate?
Yes, I watched that. And another fight, perhaps before we go on to that, I did watch the Masashi fight because a lot of people know that he's an absolute legend in the sport. You got people like Habib saying that he's probably the most underrated top fighter in the world. And, I'd be inclined to agree with him on that, but it just wasn't his night. In fact, I wouldn't say he even performed bad. One thing you could say with Masashi regards his faults is that he stands very tall, almost looks like he's asleep on his feet, but he does get the job done when he's a substantially better striker than someone else. But the opponent is up against, I just want to make sure I get his name right. Eblem. What's his first name? Eblem was great. He was in southpaw stance, landed the crosshand on Masashi really, really early, rocked him. And also, he's a really good wrestler and good grappler. Shot in, took Masashi down, and really that became the theme of the night. It was Masashi ultimately keep getting caught. He did do some great things to scramble up to his feet, and he did do a couple of good things on the feet, striking wise. But yeah, you just have to hand it to this kid. It's like new kid on the block, new style, just new level. And Masashi just looked rather aged. I don't want to write him off by any stretch. I'm certainly not doing that.
He's been very dominant, hasn't he?
He has been so dominant. But here's the fault that I've always felt that he had. It was a matter of time before it really got exposed as bad as it did that night for him. And that's the fact that he stands so tall. Like I say, he's kind of sleepy on his feet because he's predominantly the person that's doing all the stalking. A lot of people sort of perform against him through his reputation rather than what he is or isn't doing at the time. There's Lindsay.
And joining us finally is MMA featherweight.
That's annoying.
Thomas.
Me out.
How are you, mate?
I'm good. Back in the
That was stressful, wasn't it? I could just imagine you getting all flustered.
It's all right, Tom. You didn't match my. We was talking technical talk, so it would have been a little bit above you, but
you were talking shit about me when that's going to
It's been a while, Tom, since you've been on, mate. But just before we catch up with you, I'll let Danny finish off on his Bellator spiel. Go on.
And and therefore, because he's so tall, his feet are kind of quite close together, and he's not one of these footwork guys that sort of darting around, switching his stance, which has become a real modern day theme on the feet. And he was just getting set up. He had to worry about the real powerful overhand off that left side being the rear side, with the way Eblin was attacking him, and then kept getting his legs taken away from him on the shoot, and you could tell fatigue was setting in. And really, the only success you can argue Masashi was having was with the jab, which we've seen so many times, but it just was not success enough. It was, it was really getting overshadowed by the overall performance of his opponent.
Yeah, it's it'll be interesting how Masashi comes back from it because he's no spring chicken. He's not a young man anymore, but he has been so super dominant over the last since he left the UFC. So he's gonna have to go away again and react, and it'll be interesting. But you just reminded me something. During that Justin Burleson Reese McKee fight, one thing which got Justin really into the fight when after the initial period was when he was sort of behind Reese in a clinch, but he hadn't taken his back as such. He just had him sort of clinched up from behind, and he was doing like this leg sweep, and to the naked eye, it just looked like he was kicking him in the back of the ankle, but it was like a leg sweep from behind. If that makes sense. But it was really it looked really strange. I hadn't seen many fighters do it, but it was so effective. He did it 3 or 4 times in a short space of time. And every time Reese went down, and I think a couple of times he managed to scramble back up. But it was interesting how he was
hooking the Achilles with the front of his shin sort of thing.
He was almost just like booting him in the Achilles. Like that's
right.
what from behind it just looked like
a golf cup.
It's quite it's been about for a little while, that sort of style of doing things.
Yeah, I just haven't seen someone use it so effectively, I think, probably. And have the not just do it, but obviously get the success with it as well.
Right.
Whilst you're on, going back to Bellator, mate, did you see one of the fights they've set for that doubling card in Bellator? Bantamweight match, number 7 ranked James Gallagher versus Brett Johns in
really? Oh, that's gonna have some big fan base either side, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Welsh and Irish. Welsh and Irish, they always turn up for their people.
In it, yes. That's gonna be quite something.
That's the perfect fight to make.
Hundreds.
And interesting matchup stylistically. Really, really interesting.
And the one opportunity for Brett as well, by the way, because I know even though he was victorious in his Bellator, his last fight, he was disappointed with it because he wanted to make a statement and, you know, make a bit of a splash. But I know he said in his interview afterwards he was quite disappointed that he hadn't made a bit more of an impact. But I think everybody else was quite impressed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So he's obviously, James Gallagher is a tough fight. So that's going to be a real interesting one. But it's going to be that I think that's going to be a massive card in Dublin because it's at the 3 Arena, which I believe is absolutely huge. So that's going to be another good one for Bellator. And obviously you've got the UFC coming back to London as well. July or August time, isn't it? So there's all sorts of these crazy fights coming up. Let's talk about our guest a bit. We haven't seen you for a while, Tom. We haven't had you on for a while, should I say. Danny sees you most days.
Good.
How are you doing?
Good. It's the best I've been since I've seen you, Simon. We're on a winning streak right now in MMA and grappling, and it's been consistent even when we were on the losing streak. Though I kept showing up, actually kept competing, and there was probably since I fought Kieran Lister, even though the wins weren't going my way, there was just tiny incremental positives I could take away, even from the fights I didn't get, and then kept pushing, and then coming out the other side now and sticking to the process, and really looking forward to fighting again, and just loving training, loving the martial arts, all of it, every part of the sport. Really, it's really good vibes in the gym, and things are good, prosperous.
Do you know, like I'm going off the top of my head now, so forgive me if I mix any fights up, but I think what I can remember of your last couple of the Cage Warriors fights which you had, which you didn't come out on top of, is they were always super close and they were always absolute bangers and wars, and could have probably gone either way. And I think there was one where I think most people thought you had picked up a victory anyway.
May have been the Yassine or the Kieran Lister fight. Both of them two fights were very close.
Very close, yeah.
The Yassine one, when I watch that back, if we tally up the amount of strikes I landed compared to him, I dominated him in the grappling as well. It's such a hard. It was a mad one. But then after it was like the fight was good regardless. Was in a good position anyway after, just to keep moving forward. You could spend a lot of time which I did in the past, bitching about the decision, but it don't really change the future apart from getting back in the gym and just actually learning to be better. And a good fight is a good fight at the end of the day. So I was after that fight, I was happy with that. I wasn't happy with, of course, the loss because it keeps your money the same, etc. But it was a good place to build from. And then from there, it's been getting good, and the fights are looking good.
100%, mate. Yeah. Can I ask you a question? Bit of a weird one, I suppose. But do you miss your brother now that he's based out in India? Innit?
No.
Like, is it hard? Because obviously you would have spent a tremendous amount of time together over the years, not just in life, but also training together. And he's been, in your corner for some of your fights and stuff like that. Most of your fights, I'd imagine. Like, how weird was it initially when he went and swanned off?
Yeah, when he first moved away, I remember helping him pack all this stuff up and that, and we were like packing.
Did you tell him how selfish he was?
Say again?
Did you tell him how selfish he was to be leaving you?
Nah, I was well happy for him. It's absolutely been so good. And so I was well gutted, not gutted when he first left. I remember seeing him off before he got taken to the airport. I was like, whoa, I don't know when I'm going to see him again. That was actually quite emotional. But once he's out there, it was been so good on both sides, because I know he's on his focus, doing his own thing, on a slight adventure. He's on his grind and he's learning. I think it's been amazing for him. I see what he's doing out there. So I feel so happy for him. I really do. People ask us, say, are you missing your brother? And I say, brutally, I'm not missing him at all, because he's out there
living the dream.
That's it. I reckon he's going to be, when I see him again, I think he's going to be completely different in the best way possible. We talk online a lot. We FaceTime a lot, and I am just so happy for him. I really am. When the time's right, I want to go out and see him. I'd like to go help him prepare for a fight there. I have no idea how long he's going to be out there for, It's but when I see what he's doing and that, there's no way I could be missing him when I know my brother's out there having a great time. Like and not always a great time. At times it's very stressful what he's been doing and that, but in the best way possible because he's working. He's working, taking on responsibilities, coaching, and meeting new people constantly all the time. So I'm so happy for him, and of course I'm proud as well. So,
I can probably answer your question more direct and more fully, Si. Tom doesn't miss him, and I'll tell you for why. He turns up training. I'm like, yeah, they're nice gloves. Yeah, they're Richards. Another training session. Hey, what nice pads you got? Yeah, they're Richards. Then he comes jiu-jitsu training. Hey, man, that's nice ski. Yeah, it's Richards. I bet your boots he's wearing Richard's knickers as well.
So
everything of his.
When he said he was helping Richard pack, is what he meant was he was just taking all his stuff.
Yeah. Richard was just putting it in the bag. Tom was taking it out.
Yeah. He took his girlfriend with him, though, unfortunately. I'm so happy for him. Honestly, it's so good. I think he might be having a fight soon as well. So anytime some jiu-jitsu out there, it's been quality. So I'd love to go see him out there too. But I think it's so good. He's got his own. I think it's amazing us two not being together as well. Yeah. I'll probably annoy him like hell when he's home, especially like so I think it's been great for him being away from me and him on his own focus, his own grind, completely individual to mine. For his own development, mine and his, it's wicked. I'm well happy for him, and I'm really proud of him for just going into a completely unknown situation. I'm going to be picking his brains like hell when I see him next about all the things he's done and what he's seen, and it's amazing. So
do you think he comes back a better fighter, better martial artist and stuff like that? Because obviously training out there and every day, it's going to be different, isn't it? It's going to be a different experience from over here.
I think because he's actually just announced the fight this week he's got, and I just think because he's on his own essentially out there around a bunch of strangers, which is the uncomfortable situation to be in. But because of that, that's going to unlock new parts of himself, is what I truly believe. For like when I first started MMA, it was horrible. Boxing was horrible when I first started. It was uncomfortable. It was scary. It was unknown. It was new. And then looking back, I couldn't regret it at all because they're the experiences you learn from. So he's going to be having a fight without me. He's going to be completely not on his own because he'll make good relationships out there. But like the whole adventure is his. It's his journey away from me. And I think he's going to be a completely different fighter, everything. Because experiences is what changes us. Yeah.
Yeah. And I, don't get me wrong, I appreciate what you're saying and I get what you're saying as well. But it's got to be weird for both of you as well. Because you've been together all your lives. So to suddenly be apart, it's got to be different for you, especially because you both train together as well. So you're both in the game and doing that sort of training and grind. So then when you remove that comfort blanket of each other, it's going to be a different experience for you as well. Even though you're still, you're with Danny and the rest of the people at the gym, it's still there's a difference in there because he's your brother. And
I like it that Richard's gone. Because now it ain't 2 against 1 when I try and tell them how it should be regards to training and what they should do with their careers. Because since Richard's gone, I managed to make Tom go back down to featherweight, for which he's getting all his results from. So, I was right. I was right. Told him to go back grappling, and he's destroying everyone grappling. So,
destroying all these featherweights as well.
Tom, what was that sort of thought process behind going back down and doing doing the grappling tournaments and stuff?
So in my heart of hearts, and this will be because of growing up with Richard, a twin brother, always growing up with rough and tumble, two the most influential people in grappling ever was Danny Batten and Adam Grisha. I say this because when I realised just how goddamn effective that martial arts systems from the wrestling to the jiu-jitsu really is, So I fell really in love with the grappling. And then I remember jumping on like the circuits back in the day, clearing out jiu-jitsu tournaments. And then that gave me like more confidence going into MMA fights. And then I had injuries and stuff that made me fall out of love of it a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's been good jumping back on the grappling circuit, and I can see a blueprint in my mind slightly of how I can do like the next part of my career. It's all the arts, but I know like oh man, I can grapple damn good, and I know like the levels that I need to reach is I'm nowhere near where I want to be, nowhere near, which is a good thing. Like Daniel said, like I got so much to work on, and that's only a good thing because I can see it too. So,
but you know what's interesting about that is like, say like your average MMA fan or your average British MMA fan or your average Cage Warriors fan, if you asked them, you know, what's Tom Mearns' strength?
Yeah,
because of the style of fight that you so often have, they'd probably say, "Oh, he's striking. He's a striker." But actually, you're going away and you're killing it in these grappling tournaments, and you're on this winning streak. So, like Danny talks about, or me and Danny have talked a lot over the last probably couple of months, really, about the level of everybody's all round game now at the top level is just insane. Like everybody's good at everything. Is that another thought with what you like? We're trying to get, you know, improves grappling even more and keep going that next level because you want to be able to have the all round game.
Every aspect of the game. I spar a little less these days because I've had an awful lot of fights. And what I do like about grappling all the time, it keeps you acclimated to fight. Like if I'm competing in the jiu-jitsu circle, whatever, I'm always pretty much ready to have a fight. Because when you jump on a jiu-jitsu mat, a wrestling mat, you still another man who's going to try and break your will. It's extremely competitive, and it's just such an incredible art, all of the grappling. So I really want to get so much better in this area, and I really do love it. I love it. I really do. And look, I competed last weekend, and that highlighted straight away, like, oh, I could be better. That could be better there. And then, oh, damn it, I want to jump on the mat again is how I was feeling. And I literally just want to completely immerse myself in the environment to become like one with it. I just want to get back on. So then I'm not thinking about like winning and stuff. I'm just completely on the process, just grappling, doing the martial arts and really taking part. And it's so infinite. Like the muse comes to you when you just step on the mat and do the work. And I'm feeling it. So I was like wrestling today, and it feels good. It feels good. And I got some role models in the sport, and they were typically wrestlers who could strike. I fell in love with them, their styles, and who they were. And if you see it in someone else, you can see it in yourself as well. And that's I see a way I could communicate it a bit better, but I do, and it will come clear as I just keep showing up and doing the work and committing to learning first and foremost.
Indeed, mate. So what do you think? What's the plan in terms of your MMA fight now? Like, when are you looking to get back in there?
I'm looking at August or September. I was hoping for the card in July. I've got some injuries. Like my arm is. I need to get it checked out. I'll see how it goes in the next 2 weeks. If it does get better, then I will go and get it looked at. But it's coming on improving. I sometimes think I might be injured when because of what's happened in the past. So maybe I'm overthinking a little bit. But I'm trying to take care of my health and everything because I've got because when I fight, I really do roll the dice hard. I'm really, really willing to accept anything that will happen in there. So I just want to always make sure I'm in perfect health, mentally, physically, everything, every time I step in. So so August and September are looking like very likely dates, and I have messaged some promotions about trying to get on their cards. And then since the fight has gone, I've tapered off, but I've stayed in the gym and I stayed learning. Today, I didn't need to, but I made sure I turned up to wrestling because, oh man, I can be really good there. And no one expects it from an Englishman, but like I know I can become an incredible wrestler. I really do. And I'm not there yet because I've got to do the work. I've got to turn up. I've got to keep working, and it will come. And the right people are showing up as well. Got some really good people to train with. So
It's a good attitude, Danny, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah. I mean, the attitude has taken a little bit of work to mould. Sometimes Tom's fallen off his bike on that path that he talks about, but he's got back on,
good.
dusted himself off, and sometimes I had to hold the saddle a few times to steady him. But look, he's ultimately
sometimes I just stick a stick in the front wheel, Danny.
Absolutely, yeah. He does
We'll
trip
do it.
himself
We'll
up at
push the
times,
bucket button from time to time.
yeah. But that's okay as long as you're willing to do it and turn it into a positive and keep moving forward. It's not necessarily a wrong thing to go through. It's just stressful for all those around witnessing it. Sometimes it has been a difficult journey. I'd say yours has been the most difficult. You got to remember, I've known Tom a long time. I mean, you're what, 28 now? 28? 29. Yeah. I've known Tom since he was 15. And my goodness, what a hell of a journey when you think of what we've both gone through personally with each other, and just me witnessing his journey, him witnessing my journey. So you got to remember, Tom knew me throughout much of my career.
He was fighting.
So,
when I first met you, Danny.
That's right. Yeah. So many experiences been shared between us, but like I said, not been an easy journey by no stretch, and there's going to be more difficulties ahead, I'm sure. But I feel like with what he's been through and I've been through, regards to us being together moving forward, I feel that it's done nothing but strengthen us for the path ahead. I think good things are coming. I think title's going to come his way. Now he's back onto this martial art way of thinking, because look, there's no two ways about it. Everyone knows Tom's a grinder. When you talk about his strengths, I would say ultimately he can outgrind anyone. If you want to play a game of chicken with him, well, he ain't going to steer out the way. But we have to just control that tenacity in a sense of having a martial art frame of mind. And he's gone back to grappling, gone back to the wrestling, which was his real love regards to MMA styling. He's on a good path. He's on a good path. The only other thing I would say, which he knows, I want him to get this weight cutting a little bit more correct. I think he just experimented a little bit of what he can and can't get away with, and we hit that limit that last fight, and that won't be happening again.
Well, I was going to ask actually, because your stress with that situation, Danny, came across when we talked about it on the Sunday show. You had a bit of you got it off your chest, but I was kind of wanted to hear Tom's, the way it was for Tom, because obviously you went through the same thing, but in very different ways. Like, how was that for you, Tom? That sort of couple of days coming into it and the weight and.
So I got lessons learned from the fight last one. So when I fought at Featherweight in December, I'd done 2 baths, and I could not believe how well my body allowed me to lose the water. So I was very heavy for my last one in December. 2 baths, an hour each side in the towel. It just fell off of me. And going into the last fight, I got incredibly physically fit for the fight, and I probably packed on some muscle as well. I most definitely did. And I was sure I was going to do it in the same kind of manner as again. So, and then I was too kind on myself for the first part, sipping water. And I thought it was going to be at first I was calm. I knew it was a bit heavier, and I was like, oh no, wait, it's because I'm stockier than usual. I thought, got more muscle holds more water. And I was just a bit too sure of myself to start with, and then when we got through the first part, I really started suffering, and it wasn't coming off, and it was hard. I got really, really ill, really ill, and then I was willing to lose half of my purse, even though we got down to 66 point something. We was he was literally just a few pounds away. Literally, Ian Dean was going, just go and lose the last bit, and you said no, for the health, I'm not going to do it, and I agreed, because it was not nice watching you go through it at the end of the day. But I hate people missing weight, and I was hating it. I was hating the situation. But vice versa, between me and my opponent, we were both on 66 kilos point something. We were both at the same weight to have a fair fight. So I took it on the chin, you could say. So he's got half of my fight purse. So it's made it fair at least. It was. Do you see what I'm saying? I took the hit there, and I still turn up at a respectable weight to have a fight with him. and also I've compensated for the lack of professionalism to not come bang on. Do you see what I'm saying?
But there was other issues, though, wasn't there, Tom, that we had to go through? Like we'd done a 2-hour journey to get to the hotel for Tom to realise he left all his food for his after weight cut.
Yeah,
he left everything at home, and he had to drive all the way back again. And I had a hurt back because I've been holding pads a lot. I've been training. I still do a lot of training with these guys, and my body ain't young anymore. Coming up 49 years old, and I had an injury in my shoulder. And being in the car was just so painful. I said, "Tom, you're gonna have to go on your own." So he had to go all the way there.
I didn't mind that drive back. Really, to be fair, it gave me something to do.
No, but it put us behind in regards to time to cut weight. Really.
Yeah.
So I just felt a bit guilty. He had to do that journey his own while I was lapping it up, chilling out with friends at the hotel.
Well, it's my responsibility, and I should have took care of it. So that
we should have been more in order. But what a thing! Can you imagine how we felt? When it was like, "You're kidding me? You what? You got to drive all the way back?" So I think you got back at about 11 o'clock at night. Yeah. Sorry.
I felt calm when it happened. It wasn't too bad. It's just at the last bit of the weight cut. And then after, when I finally made weight, when I started trying to refuel Simon, I started projectile vomiting for like the first hour.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was trying to get some fluids back in. I didn't even chug that bad. Like I thought maybe a little bit because I'd lost 10 kilos of water off of a featherweight frame. So it's between featherweight and lightweight because I could probably had a little less muscle mass on me. But yeah, like I wasn't just throwing up. I was going, and it was, you know, like some exorcism type stuff.
Jesus.
Proper.
It was horrific. There was at one point I thought about pulling him from the fight. When I was sat on the bed, what am I going to do here?
Yeah.
It was not an easy situation.
Been that crazy the last couple of years, I thought like this is pretty standard. Just go in with it.
I wasn't surprised, Tom. I wasn't surprised. I think had that been someone else, I would have just said, look, no, this is we shouldn't do this. But because it was Mr. Mearns, let's just go with the flow. Let's see what happens. And look, he pulled off the victory. And you got to remember, he had 14% chance of winning according to people's votings. The other lad having 86% chance of winning in the polling. I mean, that's just insane. I mean, I know largely the stats don't mean anything in the big scheme. But and recently, like Lucas Klinger, who I went out to Poland with, he had 9% chance of. I don't know why we're such big underdogs all the time, but maybe it's because we don't take easy fights. We're not the type of club, and I don't surround myself with people willing to take a hollow record. Because I think hollow records that's sort of seen through these days. You can't go 10-0 and expect to go onto UFC if everyone you fought haven't strung together more than 2 wins in a row. I
see some fighters, Danny, they've got these incredible records, and I'm thinking, I would hate to be in your position where you think you're sitting and you haven't actually took on a competent fighter. It would be not a nice position to be in.
No.
I'd rather come up a slower way. I really would. So by taking on good, solid competition, that's the way for me. That is the way.
Well, it's like that. When you're fighting that better quality of opponent, you learn more stuff about yourself, you get better. But also, when you do come up against the UFC or the top level fighters, you're more prepared for it than someone who's 12-0 who's never fought anyone of any, real test. Just because they're not ready for it and they get found out. So, it's an interesting one, for sure. I was going to ask you, Danny, Tom mentioned a few minutes ago about kind of sometimes feeling like he's injured or he's holding, carrying some knocks and stuff like that, which is understandable. And I'm a bit like that. Like I feel every ache and pain and stuff because of what my body's been through over the years. You kind of feel every bit of pins and needles and pain and stuff for me. So I'm very in tune with it, but it can sometimes lead to you kind of overthinking it and things like that. Is that something which you've got to manage as his coach as well? Like in terms of him being concerned about injuries or anything which he's holding? Because he's obviously a traumatic injury in the cage before.
Sure. Sometimes, me, Raymond Paul is my assistant coach, and Tom, sometimes we have to get into a little discussion because sometimes Raymond wants people to spar more than they're happy to, and we have to sort of create that balance there. So sometimes Tom goes, you know what, no, I don't want to, and sometimes we have to give him a little push. Come on, just get in there, see where you're at. So it is a little bit of a balancing, but we have to take into account, the unique situation that Tom's in, because he has had 2 gut-wrenching injuries. In fact, I would argue potentially career-ending. If you was of a softer mindset, you wouldn't have come back from these injuries.
Career-ending. Because not only that, where it took me work, life, everything, every part of my life, I couldn't make money, I couldn't do nothing after them. I was fully disabled. Do you know what I mean? And then trying to get back into to have put on scraps and stuff. It was I know how my body felt, and it was like a literally limb off my body, and the ankle was bad, I
quite often ask you, don't I? I say, how's your ankle going? And, how's your arm feeling? Yeah. So, I know that he's carrying these injuries, and not all the time Tom shows it. So I do, every, month to 6 weeks, I do ask him, how's that arm feeling at the minute? And I always keep tabs on, not just Tom, all the students, I'm fully aware of what their bodies have and haven't gone through. I'm always checking on, like Marin the other week, another top prospect we got, who's an amateur, who will be making massive impacts in the pros. One hell of a striker. He went over on his ankle the other day, and the next session, I'm checking up on him. Hey, how's that ankle feeling? And you're in a position of duty of care, I suppose you would say, as a coach, as much as we're there to also make it uncomfortable. To push these athletes.
It's amazing, though.
The hard way to find the results. We are in a position of care as well, and I certainly do. You might have noticed, Si and Tom, that I did put a post up with a couple of pictures where I was cornering for Lucas Klinger over in Poland, and you just see the passion in my face. The worry that my face just had pages of expression on it. And one thing I do is feel passionate, and I do care. And likewise, therefore, it can take a lot out of you. And that weekend, I was exhausted for a week. That mentally drained me, Tom, that week with you. But worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah. But we were on a proper buzz on the way home, though.
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course, I remember you was in so much pain. You drunk Tom, because he lacerated his tongue really deep. Something that I've experienced. It's not a very nice feeling. In fact, I ended up with cancer in my tongue. Not to worry you top there, Tom, but I ended up cancer on the scarring that I had on my tongue, and I had a big portion of my tongue removed. So I know what lacerated tongues and that, ever so uncomfortable. And when we was driving home, I think you drank about 8 pints of milk, because you said, it's only cold milk that makes it feel better. You was just drinking tons of milk on the way home.
I think it's punishment for being a little fat bastard, really.
Yeah. You certainly deserved it.
Yeah.
I like it.
So that serves me right.
But the thing is, it is difficult. Is knowing when it's a legitimate, an injury, and when it's just you're overthinking it. Because, I said, I know for myself, sometimes you can just overthink it and think, that's feeling a bit this or that, and I guess it's knowing when to push through and when to say, right, I need to have that looked at, or I need to have a break or whatever. But also, I guess, Tom, you're older, you're more mature, some would say, but you're getting there, mate. But you know what I mean? You're an experienced fighter, you've been around the block a little bit, so you're almost able to manage your own thoughts a bit better.
Yeah.
Like everyone is, as they get older, you're able to sort of get everything in order a bit more. And then you've got people like Danny to moan to.
So I've definitely learned a lot about the healing processes and that as well. I feel like I'm in much better harmony with my body as well. So if I get injured again, I know what to do mentally and physically. I really do. And I've learned from the past. Trust me, I've learned. So
how hard is it mentally, Tom? Coming back from those types of serious injuries, because that's got to be something you've got to really push through, isn't it?
It was the first one weren't too bad because I was still young and optimistic about everything. The second one was like felt hopeless. First I was good, then it got really bad, and then but I learned things about the mind going further forward into my career. So I could even be a better coach because of it, because of them experiences. It's rounded me off way more nicely. Because imagine if the grass was always green and always getting the rub of the green. That's maybe not entirely the path of a champion. I think you've got to fall hard. You don't have to. If you can get the smooth through, by all means, absolutely take it. And
you learn more from a bad day than a good day, mate.
Absolutely.
You learn more from failing than succeeding.
That's it. It's all part of the process, and it's just so good being where we're at now and pushing through hard times. And maybe I got tested to see if I really do want this. Do you see what I'm saying? So, and I do, because I could have gave up a long time ago. There's so many things could have done. So, it's now I'm past it. I don't regret it because I learned more about myself, other people, and I'm so grateful. I really am. I'm so excited for the future fights. The present moment's great, training's great, learning's great, coaching's great, and the hard times are good because they're so necessary. So necessary. Like, how could I coach someone through a hard time if I can't actually empathize, if I haven't experienced? Like, it's just what I'm saying. Like, I want to see other fighters in them deep waters, or losing hope, losing faith. You know, trying to G them up, trying to like give them a pep talk when I don't really know what I'm talking about, but now I do. Now I do. So,
and if the other thing is, mate, is if say one of the younger fighters within your gym picks up a similar serious injury, that's going to be difficult for them to deal with, and you're straight away you're able to say, I know what you're feeling. This is what
if it happens. If they want to talk, I will talk to them. Other than that, I will let them be, and I would absolutely do my most to help. Because if it's anything, because I'm thinking about like I want to make this sport as meaningful as possible, as in every area. So like I have to lay my life down for the sport now. Give to it. I have to give to the sport. I have to give to the fighters. I really mean it. I mean that. So, if someone does need to talk, I want to talk. Providing, but they will come to. When someone doesn't want to hear something I'm not going to go and try and bash information into their ears. Like when they want to come and talk, I will listen to them. Actually, I would just listen. And
do you know what's strange about talking about all these injuries? The two horrific injuries you've had, but one being you broke your ankle, and the other one on Bellator where you dislocated your arm. It was like literally protruding out. It looked completely snapped. Lucas Klinger went through almost the same. He had a fight. He broke his ankle, and it damaged all his knee. He had so many surgeries. And then Lucas Klinger, when he was training with Linton Vassell back quite a number of years, about 6 years ago, they were doing wrestling training. He took Linton down, and as they were falling, Linton counter wrestled him, flipped him over, went over his arm and dislocated his arm exactly the same fashion as Tom did. I don't know whether you was there, Tom, for that. I had to pop his arm back in place best that we could, and off to hospital he went. But look, that's someone else that he's no longer a young man, about 38 years old now, but a light heavyweight, so you can go on for a number of years more than you can the lighter weight divisions. But he just fought out in Fem 40, which is a big promotion, fighting a really good level guy. And even with those injuries, still banging out, still getting results at 38 years old. So look, injuries doesn't necessarily mean the end. It's just an excuse to make it the end if your mindset is not strong enough. And in these two examples, they moved onwards and continue to have amazing successes. And in Tom's situation,
feel like a stake for the other fighters though when you go through these things.
Of course,
literally, they look at you like a stake. And I feel like you can lose politically after these type of things. They'll be like, "Is this paranoid for me?" But I don't think it is. They think, right, he ain't the champion no more, so he can take this L. this guy's a champion. You know, the undefeated types. But that's how it goes. Once they don't see prosperity in you anymore, like that's how I feel. But, man, I'm on fatty, love of the fate. Like I'm telling you, I'm feeling it. I'm grateful for the blunders and full accountability of myself nowadays, and go one finger out each other, mate.
I just want to say, I have noticed you've got Cage Warriors lightweight written under Tom's name, which I'm not happy about. he's definitely a featherweight now.
No,
we done that just to annoy you, Danny.
I knew you would. I knew you would.
He asked me, "Can you please put it on there?" No,
the next 5 years is featherweight. Next 5 years, got a 5-year window, and let's take a crack because wow, like you've been saying it, Danny, we can go absolutely world class.
Of course,
providing I turn up right, and I said I'll show up right, and I said it to you this week when I saw you. I'm going to make sure I show up right from now on. Doesn't mean I've got to be perfect, because that who wants to be perfect anyway? Not me.
Well, I'm perfect. It's not an easy job, so just leave that job to me. I wouldn't want to put that on anyone else's shoulders.
Nah, you can have that responsibility, Danny.
But you know what, Dan? I remember, like, in that first show that me and you did before we even had the Danny Batten fight show, and I asked you, like, out of all your fighters, who you thought was most likely to be the most successful, and I'm pretty sure you said Tom Mearns. So you've always had that faith that Tom has the temperament and the ability to get to, you know, the elite levels. It was just that other things maybe weren't lining up, and it sounds now as if everything's starting to line up to leave that.
Yeah, things were lined up, and then, you know, these bouts of injuries happened. Life happened, and then because of the complexity of him having to make a living in the way that he was making a living, made featherweight an impossible task to hit. So he had to fight a lightweight, which was not something I was ever in support with.
It was like a hope at times as well, Danny.
Yeah, it was. He was not going through a good time that we constantly, you know, said about and touched on here. But look, that was a reality of the situation. He had to fight a lightweight, although he made good account of himself up against the size difference he was facing there. He really did make good account of himself. But I know that it's featherweight where he becomes that immovable object. I mean, he's absolutely a unit at featherweight. And this is why he's doing well in grappling tournaments. I mean, look, you know, Tom is no flower in the approach to his grappling. He's a grab hold of you and grind you type of, but it's a martial art in its own right to be able to do that, you know. I just know that he's physically too much for many people. Look, we all have different gifts in a given weight division, a given sport, and Tom's is like I imagine him always like a wrecking ball. You know, it's not particularly a big object, but it's a big, solid, compact object, and it can beat objects a lot bigger than itself. It knocks down buildings, and that's how I see Tom's sort of style. It's not to say that there's nothing skillful in that style, because you've got to have the skill of awareness, because Tom's fought and beat some people with some very, very pretty jiu-jitsu. He's fought and outstruck people with some really fantastic, pretty strikes. You know, he can run through people. And now he's on the right path.
They're not pretty. I wouldn't say Habib's a pretty grappler.
No, not all. You don't have to be. I mean, I would say, you know, Charles is a very, I'd say, pretty grappler. You know,
oh wow,
he looks visual.
Incredible.
He looks visual, but that doesn't mean that that's the only way to get wins. That doesn't mean that's the way you have to win when you're on the ground. You know, you can just literally pin up the position and ground and pound them. That's the nature of MMA. There's so many variants to win on that ground. In the ground situation, some people are just amazing at winning off their back. Fair dues to them, and if I say that's a very, very hard task in the modern day of MMA, but you get some people that do that. That's why I love MMA.
Yeah, I love it. So many variables. I would like to make it more artistic, that's for sure. Just a little bit. Just a bit flair in there.
Interesting. There's some really interesting stuff going all over the place at the moment. One thing which has really caught my eye today. So Dominic Wooding put a tweet out, and he said, people are trying to block me from moving forward with my career. I've had an amazing deal on the table and they won't release me from my contract. I'm worth more than what you're paying me, so why are you trying to stop me from bettering my life? And he's tagged in Cage Warriors, Graham Boylan and Ian Dean. That is something which has been rumbling on, I think, kind of quietly in the background, but it's now it's very public, shall we say. He's bantamweight champion, I think, isn't he, in Cage Warriors? He's on an absolute tear. He's also powered by violent money, like us.
He's got a really good striker, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's got really.
Oh, there's a thread. So I'll just follow up on what he's kind of followed up there. He said, my chapter with you guys is done. I've done what I set out to do. I've wiped out your division within a 6-month period. I have nothing left to prove at Cage Warriors. I want to move on and move forward with my career. Please release. Oh, he didn't say please. He says, release me from my contract ASAP. At the end of the day, closed mouths don't get fed. This is prize fighting. Us fighters are here to get paid, not played. This is a new era, violent money for life. And then he's tagged in some other people, which I'm assuming he wants to think. I think it's kind of one of them, isn't it? Like, if he's got an offer from the UFC, it's what you like. Why wouldn't they release him to go? I don't know how many fights. I don't know what his contract is, how many fights he's got on and stuff like that. But it does seem as if sometimes, I don't want to put anyone in on like awkward positions, but it does feel like sometimes like they can be selective on who they sort of pushed in that direction. Like Dominic Wooding, to me, seems like one of the most obvious fighters they've got on Cage Warriors to go to the UFC next. He's absolutely decimated. He's decimated that bantamweight division, and he's been entertaining doing it.
Yeah.
So sounds like he's got an offer on the table. Why do you think they wouldn't release him, Danny? Like,
I think once you break that contractual deal, they're going to have a whole load of people threatening to do the same thing. It just is disruptive to the order that a contract makes. At the end of the day, he had an agreement and he signed it, and that's the difficulty. It's not to say that morally someone, when you look at their situation and you see the story of a situation, that we couldn't, as fans of theirs, say, oh, that's an unfortunate situation. Yeah, out of the moral situation, he should be released. But as a business, as a company that Cage Warriors run, if we're going to aim it at any promotion, to be fair, a contract is a contract. You have to fulfill it.
So there's another way I look at it is with the UFC, when you go into the UFC, you're on a certain amount. I think it's 12,000 per fight. And then after that, you have 3 fights. So that generally they give you a 3-fight deal. And then if you do well in those 3 fights, you then get to renegotiate for some big money.
That's right, yeah.
And you see some fighters get that big deal, some fighters get released, and that's the way it is. But can you treat each fighter on an individual basis? So if Dominic Wooding, for instance, is saying, I've beaten everyone who's come, I've got 2 fights left on my deal, should he be allowed to renegotiate the amount he gets paid from Cage Warriors for those last couple of fights on his deal, or should he see it out at the same rate? Do you see what I mean?
From what I understand, each fight I think could be renegotiated. Just because you've got a 4-fight deal doesn't mean you get a set amount of money. As far as I understand it, I mean, I've not seen the contracts differ from how I'm seeing it. So he can certainly negotiate himself. But look, if you want to have fast cars, a nice house, you're not going to do it fighting for Cage Warriors. But Cage Warriors will never, in this current situation, say that that's what they're going to be offering fighters.
No.
What they do offer them is a platform that if you become Cage Warriors world champion, you are proven world class, and you normally get the trip to the UFCs. And that's where everyone shows. Now, even when you get to UFCs, it ain't going to be your first contract that makes you a lot of money, although there are some oddities that people can make, but some people have just got that character and that works in their favor. That's the nature of the sport. I would say that's arguably unfair, but that is part of the sport. Some people are just great on the mic.
You know what you're saying there, mate, and then look, no bones about it. You're talking about Paddy, but Paddy's not making that additional money from the UFC. He's making the additional money from Barstool Sports, from deals that he's getting because he's in the UFC, but he's not making that money. Like he put a tweet out a couple of
because he made a point, didn't he?
Yeah, because someone was saying you should fight whoever in the top 5 or something, and he said I will fight them, but not until I'm getting paid, the value of what I will to fight a top 5 fighter. At the moment, I'm on 12 grand to fight or whatever. I can't remember the exact figure, but it's basically like the generic deal that they give out to everyone for that first deal. So like he's not making that additional money because he's being treated differently from a contractual point of view. Is he being treated differently from a promotional point of view? Probably, but that's another story. That's separate for me. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But also, like, people's value to the promotions changes. So, like, when Dominic Wooding come in to Cage Warriors, and I'm only using him as an example because he's the one that kind of started the conversation going. But when he came in, maybe not many people knew who he was. And then he's come in, he's had whatever, I think 3 fights or 4 fights or whatever. He's won them all convincingly. His value as a fighter now to the Cage Warriors is, I would argue, a couple of hundred times more. He's more commercially viable to them than he was when he negotiated that first contract. So if they're not, I don't know, it's a weird thing, isn't it? Because he's, like you say, if he's got 4 fights or whatever, he's got X amount of fights left. But if they're not willing to pay him what he thinks he's worth for those X amount of fights, you're kind of at a standstill then, aren't you? Because I would imagine. I mean, I don't know because I'm not running a promotion, but I can only imagine that Cage Warriors have a set criteria: who gets what, where, when, and they stick by it no matter who you are, and that's how you frame a business model. Of course, and they've probably been running this business model the way it's been for the last number of years, for which it's made itself a huge success. So, why should they change? I mean, it's frustrating. I want fighters to get more money. I see firsthand the difficulty some of the fighters have, that can't have really supportive parents or really supportive partners that are financially, in a stable position where they can train full time. I mean, look how different Luke Shank's life is. He had to go up north and live in a gym. That was the sacrifices he was willing to make to train full time. It ain't easy, but if you want financial success in a sport that's very, very competitive, it ain't going to be easy. It's as simple as that. You're going to have to go through some hardships, and at times it's going to seem unfair, but life ain't fair, unfortunately. And it's just a process. It's a very difficult argument. I can't imagine, unless it's an opportunity for him to go to UFC, for which Cage Warriors have a close relationship with. I'm sure they don't want to ruffle the feathers of UFC. I think the bond between Cage Warriors and UFC are really close. I think Cage Warriors is largely successful because of that route to UFC that they have. And I think for that part, Cage Warriors' probably mindset as a company is you need me more than I need you. And so they have the control. Listen, at the end of the day, when you work with your manager, if you have one, or you work with the promotion as an individual, when you sign a contract, you know what you're getting into. And it's literally as simple as that. And it puts Dominic in a very difficult situation. And I do feel for him. But he put his pen to paper at the end of the day. Tom, I'll come to you now, mate. I just want to put this question to Danny. Danny, you don't have to answer this, mate, because I'm not looking to put you into an awkward position. Gaz has just put a question in the chat, which I am interested in, if you like the point of view, but also, like, it is what it is. We're just having a conversation generally. But Gaz says, do you think there's a conflict of interest where Graham Boylan is the manager of some fighters, but not all fighters. And obviously he's the manager of Cage Warriors as well. And then he negotiates with the UFC. And I know it's something which I think it was Ariel Hawani brought up previously, but I apologize if it wasn't him. But Gaz just basically says, would Dominic Wooding be treated differently if Graham Boylan was his manager?
I can't categorically say so, but
No.
I could understand why anybody might choose to feel that way, and I'd be lying if I was to say that I wouldn't sometimes feel that way if it was one of my fighters that were in a difficult situation and felt that he wasn't given a fair rap. But we've had Graham Boylan on, a very, very impressive individual.
Absolutely.
And an individual that made it very, very apparent that he cares first and foremost, beyond the money, is the safety of the fighters, which is worth more than any money. So the previous thoughts that I had of Graham Boylan have been changed since speaking to him on the podcast. And I'm at that stage of my life, and have been for a number of years, where I know that there's many times that I am wrong. Sometimes I'm outwardly wrong, where I express a point of view and I add up on it, and I can hold my hands up. I've got no ego of issue to admit that I'm wrong. But Graham Boylan is in it for good things for the young, tenacious fighters, boys and girls, ultimately to keep their healths good as they strive to be the best they can be. And hopefully the best that they can be is something that they can platform off of Cage Warriors to UFCs and other promotions to make a real living for themselves. And but he is a businessman nevertheless, and he will have a business model to stick very, very strongly to. But I just don't know enough information to know whether you can get any evidence together to say that he's treating one fighter over another just because he manages them. Do I think it's morally uncomfortable for a promotion to also manage fighters that are within that promotion? Yeah, it doesn't sit comfortable with me. But that doesn't mean that he can't do it, because it's his promotion and it's his management. So, we could choose not to put our fighters in there just because we might face one of his fighters that are managed and not only fighting under his punishment, but managed by him. But that's our choice to therefore not go the Cage Warriors route. But it goes back to that thing that I said earlier. He could just argue, look, you need me more than I need you. You know the score, you know the environment. Sign up to it or don't sign up to it. I'm not making you do anything.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. But I appreciate the question, Gaz, as well, because
it's a good question.
I've seen other people, talk about that
sorry.
and say that it's like a bit of a
it was a hard one
and stuff like that, but it's different.
Yeah. But like I say, in judgment of meeting Graham Boylan, I think he's a fantastic individual that's doing amazing things for the sport, and I think nothing other than better of him since that we had him on. I feel like I got to know him on a more personal level. I still really don't know the guy, but certainly that question from Gaz was one that I just say, and I stand by this whole moral thing. Morally it feels a little uncomfortable, and I can understand why other fighters would be uncomfortable with that situation. But like I say, it's ultimately, do you sign up for this promotion that does that, or don't you? It's up to you. Look, at the end of the day, if you're going in there and you're winning, you're going to get through the path that you want to get to. And if that's UFC, just keep winning and it will come.
Indeed. Tom, anything to add on that subject, mate?
You get what you negotiate at the end of the day. So it is that I early in my career, I wanted to be competent first and foremost. So I wouldn't want to be asking for big money, and it's like, well, who the hell are you anyway? Like, who have you fought and blah, blah, blah. So before I ever got to the stage where I'm getting paid good, I wanted to be a certified legit fighter. And but yeah, you gotta what the contract is, read through the contract. I'm a free agent as of right now, so I do need to make sure it's actually prosperous for me to even fight. So I've only been doing 1-fight deals since I finished my 5-fight, and because there's absolutely other promotions interested in having me. I'm 16 professional fights deep now, so it's getting hard. So I haven't even got a manager. I've had managers offer to manage me, and haven't taken on any management people yet. but I know I could definitely get a lot more money than what I've been fighting for as of lately. So I'm willing to fight hard for it as well. So I'm trying to keep my career prosperous. I'm interested in the Cage Warriors world title because I'm absolutely gonna have a world title before I'm done with this sport. So it is a hard one because you wouldn't want to sign into become a world champion in order to repress yourself. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you know what I mean? Like, how does that make sense? But the contract is the contract. So then you don't want to be like, oh, you can fight for the world title under the conditions you've got this contract you've got to fill out. Imagine you get a world title and then you're tied into a contract where you're not making any money, and then you're fighting the next Conor McGregor's. You know, do you see what I'm saying? Look at the competition. Is that dangerous? The people you'll be fighting, you may never be the same man again when you leave that cage. They can cause that much harm to you. I'm not exaggerating. So, but it's my response. Like, yeah, I know it's if a contract comes my way, I've got to read it through. I've got to check it. And I like the vibe on Cage Warriors. You know, I've rocked up at Bellator events. I've rocked up at Cage Warriors events, for the pure love of the sport. It's damn good. It's damn good. But it's clearly a big issue in MMA now. So fighters are speaking out, which is good. And you know, the people doing these shows and the fighters, we've got to start communicating better. Actually, instead of signing a contract and then having a big emotional reaction because you felt like something wasn't fair, that's no good either. So it is a delicate subject because I understand why fighters get resentful, because we are putting our lives on the line, and but then no one's really making us do it. We do love to do what we do, and we want the big time. And Cage Warriors has always been a shot at the big time. It's a certified world title, and some of the greatest fighters in history have held that world title. So, you know, I can't talk for other fighters, but I've made many mistakes financially in my career. So now I have to start getting my business head on as well, because I wouldn't want to be a burden to the people around me as well, because I'm pursuing a passion, a career, a love. And it's a delicate subject. It is, but yeah, the fighter pay ain't good enough. But then vice versa, how profitable is it me fighting on certain promotions? So I know that first. Like, does it make them money, me coming in and fighting on their show? Yeah. Am I pulling in big numbers? So I want to work with these companies too. But then if they're signing me into these big deals, because they could sign you into a 5-fight deal, and then you're having decision fights, and then you start losing your decisions, even if they're close for the first part of your contract. You're thinking, then you're staying on the same purse as you're going through your contract. So I'm avoiding any multi deals because they're not prosperous, and they'll get advertised online like, "Oh, you're in a lucrative deal." No, it's actually quite repressing.
I think that, you know, most of the time, if you're looking for, say, a 3-fight deal, let's just say, I think you should have it done on a win basis. I think it's always good when a promotion offers us up something like submission of the night, knockout of the night, performance of the night. I think these are all good things to strive for. So it's not just on your results, but I think ultimately it should be structured on results. So if you go in and you're going to get 5,000 for a fight, and then you get a win bonus as well, that's really good. And then because you've won your next fight, they'll say, if you've won previously, we'll give you 7 and 7. You know, 7 + 7 win. I think this is the kind of way or kind of contract I'd be looking to try and sign fighters up for, and what I'd be trying to push. But that's very dependent on the promotion and, you know, what means of finances have they got.
Is the money there? Is what I want to know. Is the money there? Because I understand you've got to be constantly building up the company. You can't be just dishing it out all the time if you're not making the company stronger. So first and foremost, you've got to fill the company's cup, I guess, to even have the thing alive and working.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, Tom, you know, you're all part of the entertainment business. You know. Yeah,
and you know, but the company does need the fighters as well. The company does need the fighters. Why do you turn up to Cage Warriors? Because you want to see world class fighters fight, and they've got that. So yeah, the communication.
And that's the strength of any promotion, any successful promotion. The strength that they've got is if they've got something to offer. You know, some won't like it and will leave. Some will kick and stamp their feet. Some will refuse to sign up. There'll always be others. So that's the difficult situation that individual fighters that stand alone have in this situation. I just wish the best for Dominic, you know, because he is a fantastic, exciting fighter, and he's definitely got a lot to offer. Any promotion that he goes under, but I don't know what his situation is in depth. But let's say he's got 2 fights outstanding. If he feels that he's head and shoulders above everyone else, regardless, I'd say just get these fights done, get it out of the way, and release yourself.
It's not a casual thing either, though. It's not a casual thing. So if you could say, like, all right, so you're tied into this contract, you could potentially die in your next fight. You never know. Like, you want to be motivated to go in there and fight. So if you go in there to fight and then you're not even going to break even for, say, your 16th professional fight, and you're fighting one of the best people in Europe, mentally that's not good for a fight. And then if you take a loss to 2 loss, people sweep you under the rug.
Yeah, but look, I will argue this though. With this situation, the thing is with Dominic Wooding doing what he's doing, and people will argue to and fro on whether it's right or wrong that he's really put this out into the public forum. It certainly creates great discussion, and it could iron out issues and allow promotions to perhaps see how some of the fighters feel, and they might make changes accordingly because of it. But another promotion is going to see him as a dangerous take on regards contracting him, because what happens when if he feels that they ain't going to also pay his worth, are they going to start being slapped all over social media? He becomes a risk for other promotions to take him on. So it's a difficult route that he's choosing to take, and I'm not saying he's wrong to do what he's doing. I mean, it's all the personal choices. But if Tom, you wanted to start posting all the way, all over, I don't like this and don't like that about the promotion, I would explain it in that way and say, listen, you're an individual of your own right to express how you want, where you want, and so on and so forth. But there can be potential consequences of it, and I hope that other promotions don't look at this and start saying or thinking to themselves, you know what, I ain't going to have someone that's going to potentially be a big god. What happens if something happens in my promotion that you don't like? And we're going to start being exposed in a bad light.
On the other hand, some promotions might look at it and think, do you know what, I would love to have Dominic Wooding in my promotion. Let's get him in and offer him what he's worth. Yeah,
he's got a lot to offer. You're absolutely right. So he has got some strengths. I just hope he doesn't ruin it by this going the wrong way for him. We just have to watch this out of interest. I'm kind of curious to see what will happen now, and perhaps find out more about what his actual personal situation is. He might be tied in for another 3 or 4 fights, and for which case it's like, but why sign into such a big contract?
That could be an absolute mountain. Imagine that. Imagine if who knows how many fights he has left in his contract. Imagine how much health has he got for the money that's even coming in. Like, fighters got to take that. Like, how much health have you got to put on the line for the money that is coming in? Because they want to fight, or you've got to be able to afford to be able to eat, pay your bills, get to training, and then there's some next guy who's absolute killer. So
I would always say this. I mean, I'm not a manager, although I have sort of done that indirect for certain people. I actually got in some fights.
You should look after your fighters, though. If you want, people will always perform better in a positive frame of mind. You will always work better for a company in a positive frame of mind. If a company respects you, you're always going to do the most for that company. If a company looks after you, man, I will put it on the line. And then if you don't feel that, it's going to be hard to try to rock up and claim to be the champion of the world of this thing if you don't feel they even care for you. And it's got, the fighters have to work with the promotions, and they got to think through these contracts, because a contract is a contract. Once you signed it, that is on you. But vice versa, if you want your fighters turning up and fighting with all their heart to support your company, You've got to look after him. If I was running a warehouse or something and I started disrespecting my employees, well, they're going to downright start stealing my, I don't know, stock to compensate for, so they can pay bills or whatever. You know, it's a delicate
I don't
balance.
know. Did he have a manager? Did he arrange the contract himself? I don't know. But like I say, I'm not a specialist in the managing field, but I have been exposed to many managers, have been in contact with many of them through other fighters. But I would suggest this. I think a 3-fight contract is kind of like the perfect number. Why? Because you can certainly make the promotion realize what kind of effect you can have within any given division that you're competing in. If you're getting 3 wins, emphatic wins at that, you're going to renegotiate those next 3 fights, which is not too long, but you can renegotiate those and get something that's more satisfying. The problem with, say, 5, 6 or 7 fight contracts, particularly on smaller promotions, and you start realizing, you know what, I'm head and shoulders above all these, of course you're going to be left feeling trapped in a promotion that you don't feel that really is adequate for your level, which seems to be what Dominic Wooding is experiencing right now. Just don't get tied into contracts. As a piece of advice that I would give any of my fighters, don't get involved in a contract that's really big unless you've already made it on UFC, Bellator, where they are giving you 30, 40 grand per fight with win bonuses and submission of the night. Then albeit sign up, because you've kind of reached the pinnacle of your sport.
Is it there? Is it there to look? Is MMA just doing that bad as a sport? No one's interested in it, or
no? I think
is it there? Like,
is there for the ranked fighters? Is there?
Do you see what I'm saying? Like, surely there's some money there to pay the fighters. Like, man, I was walking through town the other day. You know, you're walking through the high street, just peered through someone's window. MMA, boom, on the TV. Like, you know, you just walk. Like, people love MMA. People love the sport. How prosperous is it? Like, I think it's an amazing sport, incredible sport. So, like, you got to work with a company to make sure things actually are profitable and you can actually get paid. And they can build up their company and make their company strong in order so you can actually get paid. So, are these companies just doing really bad? Are they? Do you know, like they can't?
The thing. We don't really know.
I don't know.
Look, when a promotion's doing one after another, it's a little bit like the battle arena. If you ever speak to the guy, James, he'll tell you there's no money to be made. Well, he's running a show, which ain't an easy task. He's running a show practically every weekend sometimes. He ain't doing it because he ain't making no money. He's doing it because he is making money. And like any businessman, they are not going to throw money away for free. So if they can get fighters at the minimum price, they will get fighters at the minimum price. And if there's an abundance of fighters and some fighters won't want to take on that sort of sense of value, there'll be others that will. And that's the way it's going to be. The sport hasn't reached that era yet where a fighter can be bigger than a promotion. I think boxers have reached that stage where they really call the shots. Isn't it so? Like 80% of the proceeds of a promotion, when you've got a top boxer, doesn't it go to the boxers? Where it's the reverse for MMA. I think it's only 20% of the proceeds that come into UFC go to the fighters. It just hasn't reached that point yet. But will it? Probably so. But not from many, many years, and I'd argue decades.
Yeah, 100%. It's a very complex kind of conversation, but ultimately, I think we all want to see fighters get paid what they're worth and get paid more.
I think they'll fight better as well. They're going to be fitter, stronger, healthier. And they will fight better. They'll actually will come in better, and they're going to be more motivated. Like,
but see, I don't actually think so. And
I disagree. I know on my part, because if I got paid better, my nutrition would be better. My healthcare. Like, have you seen the amount that a basketball player invests in his health to stay on top of his game? Yeah. I have absolute wars where I get fractures on my bones. Okay, and
Yeah.
then I want to get back in the ring again to have another. I want to give
but
my all on the line, but I
my
can't even
argument,
invest in my health.
my argument for that, Tom,
Yeah.
is you're saying that regards someone that's at the very pinnacle of their sport. And yes, there's a credible amount of money that go to these athletes, and they spend incredible amount of money to keep their health absolutely tip top because they have the financial means to do so. But ultimately, they had the motivation to. They're very, very special individuals. You know, anyone that makes it in UFC now, or boxing at the level that it's at, or basketball in the level that it's at, because it's been around for so many decades, they're very unique individuals. But there's so many other individuals underneath that. So, say if you overpaid them early, that it would actually go against them.
They'll go like rock star mode.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. So,
I think it's been
it can work bad in the
demotivating
other
for me
way.
at times, though. I know from my heart of hearts, I would have had more fights. I would have been willing to take on tougher competition. Finances has been one of the biggest obstacles, which is I've got to deal with it. I've got to learn and figure out a way.
Yeah. But you probably will fall into more of the unique personality that are so driven to succeed.
My surgery, I was in the big cogs machine of the NHS, and they saw me as just another like typical smoker, or like I didn't see me as an elite athlete, but I'm on the world stage, like the pinnacle of the sport, Bellator, potentially nearly made the crack on the Ultimate Fighter, and I couldn't get any private healthcare. I had to wait. So the injury was in May, so I had to wait for. It was in August. I had my surgery. Do you see what I'm saying? But if I was a compensated athlete, I would have had surgery that week. Yeah, but like if you're at the pinnacle of sport and you got the money, you would do that. But I couldn't. I couldn't even work or nothing.
Yeah, do you know your difficulty and so many others regards UK fighters find it so much harder than other promotions. So as an example, when I was over in Poland, there's so many more sponsors that sponsor each and individual fighter. So so much so that really it's not the promotion that pays them anything that's worthwhile. I mean, that's just a little added little token. A lot of them were earning their salary from sponsors ultimately. But let's go deeper than that. Really, this is the job of a good manager. Now, a good manager will bring those sponsorships. They will have attachment of companies that are willing to sponsor fighters that are attached to that manager. To me, perhaps it's more of a manager's importance rather than a promoter's to pay the fighter something substantial in a way to get by in a lavish lifestyle of any sorts. I think managers play a big part, and I think there's so many managers that just take their 20% and they don't really do anything other than pass the contract paper from one hand to another to be signed, and they're taking their 20%. I say you're a good manager.
In the past.
Yeah,
I feel like there's nothing they could do for me that I couldn't do for myself.
Sure, but a good manager would be someone that's going to bring those companies to you, to sponsor you, to give you a salary, to give you that comfort and peace of mind to be able to train, push hard. And of course, at first, for your first contract, as an example for UFC, not get as much as people would perhaps expect a UFC fighter to get. But certainly, if you're succeeding in that first contract, your next contract of 3 or 4 fights should be more substantial if you've made a good account of yourself. And then, probably the promotion would start paying something more than that manager would bring to you in form of sponsorship. It's so much more of an in-depth situation and probably even we're making out now. But even in this discussion, it's probably raising a few eyebrows of how it is. Probably so many people who sit on the couch and watch MMA as a fan think that the fighter just fights and trains every day and it's all hunky-dory. They probably think that any UFC fighter that are fighting in UFC are probably really well off, and it isn't the case. But they probably just think it's a case of promoter pays the fighter and that's it. But it ain't that. It's so much more than that. And just unfortunately, UK fighters, as my observation, is that there's not very many UK-based companies that feel that they can have anything from a fighter in terms of financially outlaying them for them to advertise themselves. But in Poland, there were so many. They would put these 24-hour tattoos all over the bodies of these fighters. You just don't see that in the UK. It's really, really hard come by. This is why I really respect what Jordan's done. Jordan's always in abundance with sponsorships. I've never known a fighter like it. He's probably the only one that I know of that seems to have been able to get access to companies that sponsor him. And I'm sure if you ask Jordan, how have you been able to get by to train full time? It won't be from what he's made from promotions. It would have been made through either the management or the companies that sponsor him. But that's the ultimate difficulty I think UK-based fighters have. They just don't have no support from companies.
Yeah. It really interesting conversation. I cannot believe that it's like 9:45. That time is absolutely flown by.
One of the longest interviews we've had for certainly the recent times.
I was missing for the first half.
Disappeared, didn't he? For the first
Another thing with the fight thing though, so like
Tom.
But as a fighter, I guess I got to do the ticket sales. I've got to be very profitable to be on. But I don't want to. I want to rock up as Tom Mearns, and I want to do it with the talk, with my fighting and pure action of the sport. So if I can't be asked with all this doolally stuff, trying to.
Oh, what the hell are you talking about, Tom? You did turn up as Tom Mearns. You didn't bring your weight cut stuff. You were 10 kilos overweight. I mean, what more do you want?
They say you got to market yourself and that, but I mean. I just want to do the action. I just want to do the fights, and then
you just turn up as Tom Mearns. You're doing great.
I'll be got welterweight if I turn up at Tom Mearns. So. I got a box of Lindor right there, bro.
Oh wow!
We'll see.
Then Danny, I got a challenge for you, mate, right? Because I have really, really got to wrap this whole show up now. You give me a rundown of yesterday's UFC in 60 seconds.
Oh my goodness! Oh my god!
General, what you enjoyed, what was good, who was good, whatever. Just a quick rundown. Don't have to be anything.
Okay. Just let me get the names up because it's the names you struggle with more than anything else. So where's the start at the top? Gamrot versus Arman. Arman looked absolutely incredible against Gamrot in the first 2 rounds. It was probably round 3 you saw Gamrot begin to break down, probably using the whole basis of cardio. Arman started to slow down a little bit. I wouldn't have been surprised if the result went either way at the end of it, but it went in favour of Gamrot. And I think, that's fair because Gamrot was the one that was chasing takedowns as well as the strikes and the submissions, was perhaps showing a little bit more diversity than Arman. Arman looked utterly devastated, but that won't be the last you'll see of him. In fact, I'm sure we'll see this fight run back at some time in the future. But Gamrot, I'm a real fan of his style. I love the way he grapples, and his striking ain't half bad either. But well done to Gamrot. And Arman, he'll be coming back from this. Showed some incredible kicks, incredible defensive wrestling. Then we had Neil Magny. I love Neil Magny's style. I think, I really have warmed to his style, but it was very disappointing. Something that I'm very, very big on is you don't kick, or very few times will it be beneficial for you to kick to what I call the closed side of the body. So if your left leg forward, to kick to the body on that left side, the dividends, the returns of any success from doing that is really overshadowed by the fact that you can get taken down with a leg catch, have a leg catch and be counter cross punched. And this happened. He threw 2 body kicks to the close side, got taken down 2 times, and it led to him being submitted. I was really confused by that. He's so much better than he showed. But you can't take nothing away from Shevkat. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Hakamanov or something like that, how you pronounce his name. No, he did what he did. He got given an easy opportunity to win those rounds and to take the submission, and he did so in incredible fashion. So, back to the drawing board for Neil Magny, unfortunately. Then we had Josh Parisian versus Alan Bodot. Bodot looked really good on the feet, looked really quite explosive, and it looked like he was going to get the better of Parisian. But Parisian started scoring takedowns at the end of the first round, and you could tell that he knew that Bodot was really lacking on the ground, really lacking in the wrestling. So he knew he could get into the ground. He absolutely come straight out, gone into the ground, and Bodot just was not showing any capabilities of knowing how to scramble back up to his feet in any safe fashion, receiving lots of blows. And it was an easy win for Parisian in the end. But took him a little bit of damage for him to realize how it was so easy to get the win with the takedown. But, he did take a lot of damage on the feet. But that was great win for him. Nurmagomedov, was amazing against Manis. Manis is really, really good, 14-1. So you know that this record is pretty good. And I've seen this guy fight before, very, very good. But he just come up so short against Nurmagomedov. He was just incredible, showing good striking, good takedowns, amazing grappling control. You know, I'm not surprised with sort of like that showcasing of skill set that he went on to win that fight. And the last one was Thiago Moises versus Gigos. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Thiago made such short work of it. Shot in, entered in, kind of just wrestled him up, grappled him up, and got the submission win in very, very short order. It was a very easy night's work for Moises. Moises is someone that really impressed me back along. Then he got defeated, and I kind of like was a little bit disappointed in his performances, but he seems to have got himself back on track. And yeah, I think he can make some waves in the division if he carries on with dominant performances like that. How did I do? I know it went 60 seconds, but
that's pretty good. 3 minutes done.
Yeah,
I like that, mate. I like that. Guys, as always, an absolute pleasure. Really interesting conversation tonight. Tom Mearns, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you.
Training tomorrow?
Pleasure, mate.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow, Tom.
Yeah,
see you tomorrow. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. You'll be surprised, although I'm training with Tom all the time. We normally don't get to talk as deep or as long as we did just now. So it is.
That's what I'm about,
nice
bringing people together. That's what I
do.
Absolutely.
Tom,
go and drink some beer and eat some chocolate, mate.
We're going here. We've got
take a couple of days off. Leave training on Friday.
Oh wow.
Right, guys, as always, pleasure. Check out Fume as well, breathefume.com. Use the code A.C.E Nation. Give up smoking today. We'll be back next week with an all-new guest. See you later.